All right, we will get going again. Okay, so I want to welcome to the room Randy Herron and David Ronson with TDIndustries. We're going to be discussing a case study, developing an efficient end-to-end tracking system to understand performance metrics and inform strategic decision making. So we're going to start out with Randy.
Have the clicker.
Thank you.
Start up here. Hello, everybody. That's a big title for this presentation. So basically, it's data is really important to us, and how do we manage it from model estimate to model to manufacture, and actually get some information that helps us make better decisions. So I'm Randy Herron. I'm the Senior Vice President of Construction Technologies and Manufacturing. And then David Ronson, Director of Construction Technologies. We're going to tell you just a little bit about TDIndustries. Our headquarters is in Dallas. We have about 2,800 partners, and we call them partners because we're employee owned. So we're throughout the state of Texas and Arizona. And last year we did about 700 million in revenue. And we have about 90 plus designers. So that's our engineering team plus our BIM designers. And we're throughout all of the major cities in Texas and Arizona. And we've been in business. This is our 75th year anniversary. So we've been having a party all year long, which is pretty exciting. Some of our offerings are mechanical construction, service, facilities, process solutions. And then we're really excited about our modular offering that we're launching this year. So what I'm going to talk to you about is more of the infrastructure, the operations thinking on making big changes with how you're using your technology and your data. And then David's going to talk to you about the actual how to do it. And so one of the things that we had to do and think about first was we were pretty siloed between Houston and Austin and San Antonio and Dallas and Phoenix and Fort Worth. We ran our construction companies sort of the same, but not really. And so we had our VDC or BIM teams in each geography, and a lot of times they were overseen by somebody who had been a project manager or ran the construction division. And so we kind of had the old siloed paradigm, and we said really to go where we need to go, where the future is leading us, is not to be so siloed anymore. And our new paradigm was to form a center of excellence, is what we call it, with our VDC team, with our construction technology team, and our manufacturing team. And so that's where I come in. I was part of the construction business for about 25 years in Houston. And I kind of saw where the future of construction was going and where manufacturing was going. And I said, I really want to be a part of the future of this business. And so I was lucky enough to be able to get to hang out with David and the VDC team and make this transformational change for our company. So it really is about, step one was kind of looking at how we were organized and saying, do we have the culture and the structure that can support big change like this? And I'm going to go over this roadmap, then I'm going to turn it over to David. But, big change takes a lot of planning. And back in 2017 is when we first started thinking, hey, we need to do something different. We need a database. We need to integrate our systems. And so in 2018, we were very fortunate to pick up a tremendous resource in La Yanda to help us build our database. And so from there, in 2019, we started a very long process of building and designing our new ERP. And in 2020, it's really some decisions that we were having to make where we have this new ERP that we're building. What is going to be our system to manage from model to manufacture? How are we going to get that reporting into F&O? And so that was just transitioning that data, making some big decisions to partner with Stratus. And then also on April of 2021 is when we went live with our ERP. And for any of y'all who have gone live with an ERP, it's a monumental step, and it's kind of bumpy, right? So we're in the middle of those bumps right now, but we're in a really good place moving forward. And so as we look to the future, and I think all of y'all heard Amy talk this morning about productization, that's really what we're doing, is we're saying we're using our data in every part of the process. We're estimating with the same database that we're modeling with, that we're manufacturing off of, and they all talk to our ERP. So that, you know, being in the construction business is hard because you take a big risk when you bid a project, and then you get to the end, you're like, God, I hope we make it, right? And did you actually build what you estimated, or did you actually build what you modeled? And so being able to have a database that's your single source of truth that takes you all the way through that process is really exciting for us. And we're really looking forward to being able to mine that data to then say, how can we make even better decisions in the future with it? So really in 2022, we're looking to productize as best we can between our piping and plumbing. We've already gone through our sheet metal and looked at that, because one of the things when you bring 70 BIM designers together from different cities is we all have to model the same way, right? And so there's a lot of training and education that happens in that. And it's one of the gifts that COVID gave us, was the ability to train cross geography, cross center of excellence through teams. And so we do a lot of training and teams. And in August of last year, we transitioned to Revit. So we transitioned about 65 or 70 designers to Revit. We're in fully all drawing in Revit now, because it was what was required to move forward. And having those resources to be able to connect and talk to all of the geographies at once is fantastic. And then as we look past 2022 and into 2023, what we're really excited about is just automation. Once we really understand our data, what can we do with that? What kind of automations in the shop can we have to where we can improve our productivity? So that's just a little bit about our roadmap and kind of the infrastructure and organizational support that moves this big need, and just our technology roadmaps to kind of give you an idea of what that journey was and how long it took us. So just turning it over to you, David.
All right, thank you, Randy. My slides are a little bit unique. I'm not able to control them. I've got a partner in the back that I'm gonna request to advance the slides. But this first slide, the intent of this slide is to give you an idea of how the data is connected. Amy talked a lot about data. Without data, a BIM model is just a pretty picture. It's pretty much useless. And what I'm hoping to impress on you during my portion of the slides is the importance of data. We've been using the fabrication products for a long time, and I've seen a lot of companies who don't really invest in their data. They see a shorter path to solve the current problem, but they don't really stop and plan about their data. If they put this item in the model, what is the data gonna reflect? So it's become a super important thing. And so there in the middle, you'll see there is our database. That database is created, managed, and stored in Autodesk fabrication products. Who in here uses Autodesk fabrication products? Okay, so they're similar to Revit components, but they're significantly more intelligent to the MEP trades, okay? So we've created this database, and it connects to our pre-construction division. We use Autodesk MEP for estimating, okay? And it connects to Revit. It also connects to Stratus. Are you familiar with Stratus? Okay, they have a vendor, we've got a booth in the back, you can find out who they are. So if you'll click on, Jason, if you'll click on the database, what I want to explain is what the database is. Okay, this is parts and pieces that we model with. It's sheet metal, pipe fittings, hangers, welds, all sorts of things. What's the connectivity of my parts? How much does it weigh? Where do I buy this? What is my vendor's ID? What are the seams? What are the notches? It's just a plethora of data that the fabrication parts are providing to us. And what you can see here now is the data going into those items. And what we get is a pretty picture. That right there, if it was a coordinated model, we could go build off of it. That, what I'm showing, is SMEP. So as the estimators are tracing over the PDFs, It's creating a very beautiful model that is data rich. It's got everything we need to query off of. We could technically go straight into manufacturing with that. If you'll go back. All right, so back to the center again of our data. Now we're going to go into Revit. Okay, that same data, if you'll go back. Yep, if you'll click on the Revit. Oh, I skipped SMEP, didn't I? Sorry. Go back. That's what happens when you're not driving your own slides. If you'll click on the SMEP. All right, so this is EST, okay? So as they're tracing over the PDFs, it's creating this model, okay? And you'll see we've got labor rates, material costs, all the things that are relevant to pre-construction. But what also is in there is information that they're not using. They're not necessarily using seams, notches, connectors, things like that, but it's in there already. It's natively in there. This is the same data that we're going to manufacture off of. This is the same data we're going to do our detailing off of. So again, driving the entire ecosystem from that same core data is what's important. All right, Jason, if you'll go back, go to Revit. So again, same data. You'll see the library of parts on the right. It's just a pretty picture. What we're most interested in is what's behind the pretty picture, right? Again, data, data, data. So VDC will use this data source for making construction documents. Several people are going to use them for spools. They can make spools off of it, okay? Autodesk introduced the fabrication database to Revit in 2016. In 2018, it became a lot more viable, practical to use. 2020 is significantly better, and every year it's just getting better and better. So it's a different type of component than normal Revit families, okay? All right, if you'll take us back. So once we model in Revit, we publish that into Stratus. Stratus is a very strategic partnership that we wanted to get in on because of their natural understanding of fabrication, the fabrication database. Their developing director is the same guy who was the developing director of fabrication products. So it makes a much more native conversation for us when we need to talk to Stratus about getting more data, changing the data, manipulating the data, so on and so forth. So it's really strategic since we're already using the fabrication database. Using Stratus as well makes a whole lot of sense. So we're using Stratus. Stratus is a cloud-based product that you publish your model in. It uses the Forge platform to render that model. But again, it's more about the data. We can make packages off of it. We can do spools. We can run all sorts of reports against the data, isolating all the welded fittings, sheet metal, galvanized gauges, what are the seams, notches, so on and so forth. If you'll go back, from Stratus, we're creating cam duct models off of the packages. So as packages are created, we're going to create a cam duct model. So cam duct is what we use to do our nesting on the plasma tables, decoilers, liners. So that the ability to make an MAJ directly out of Forge was huge for us. So as the packages are created, we have one MAJ per package, okay? And no other product has been able to do that other than Stratus. So cam duct is what runs our sheet metal machines. And if you'll go back. So between Stratus and our new ERP system is what we're calling the data store. That is our internal product that we built. And it's a fancy Excel spreadsheet. Go ahead and click on that. So the data store is the connection between Stratus and our ERP system. Okay, so that is Easiest way I can explain it is Stratus speaks in English and ERP speaks in French, and we need a translator between those two. Okay, ERP wants to receive information a certain way. Stratus doesn't necessarily send it in the same language that it receives it. So what we're doing is we're storing all the package information from Stratus in this fancy Excel spreadsheet. Basically, we're data mining the entire thing. Stratus will generate tasks based on the information of this package. This package needs to go to the Watts Mueller, it needs to go to fit up, it needs to go to packing. Okay. For sheet metal, it's a sectioned package. It needs to go to the decoiler, it needs to go to the plasma machine, doesn't have liner, so it doesn't need to go to the liner task. So all that information we're pulling out of Stratus and making ERP aware of this package. We're making ERP aware of the bill of materials about the package. We're making ERP aware of all the tasks that that package is expected to go down. Again, data, data, data. It's all about data. So if you'll go back, then we get to ERP. ERP does ERP things, okay? Billings, procurement, payroll, project management. So what we've done is we've taken the fabrication, our fabrication database is about 60,000 plus line items of things and growing daily, okay? So what we're doing is as we send this information from Stratus into ERP is also aware of that particular fitting. So 6-inch weld band, what's the ID of that fitting? What is the Ferguson ID of that fitting? What is the Morrison ID of that fitting? So as we create the bill of material for that package, we can go directly to the vendor with their codes and get an exact pricing on those items based on our purchase agreements. So we're also storing all of our purchase agreements. So we're making sure that we're actually paying for the item what we agreed to pay for the item, okay? So there's a very direct connection between all of the pre-con, VDC, shop data flow through those IDs, okay? So if you'll go back, then we get into case study, and I can use the progressor from here. We're 2 months into this, so I just picked a package and I said, well, let's go through that package and see what the data tells us, okay? So this was Project Olympus, and there was a package. What did I say that package number was? Olympus 074. That's the package. There's a description that goes with it, but every package just has a generic numerator to it, and we'll see how many packages we get in that project. So I went all the way back to VDC, and I got that same group of parts out of the VDC model, or out of the pre-con model, out of SMEP. You'll see it highlighted there in blue. Then I went to Revit, and I got that same group of parts. And I went to Stratus, same group of parts, okay? And I wanted to do some data analysis to say, well, what did pre-con say this should cost? What did it actually cost? So we can, because we're using the same data central hub, I can very quickly take that information and go all the way back to pre-con and say, where did we go wrong on this project? I have all the data that actually happened. You have the data that you projected. We can very quickly figure out what happened, what went wrong, maybe what went right, okay? So again, sorry, this is Cam Duct. This is the data store of that particular package. And what I'm doing here is just kind of cycling through the different tabs of information. This is, you're not going to be able to read that from here, but basically it's storing let's see here if I can read it off to you, the cam nested material. What material did it actually nest? So part of sheet metal is a waste, right? When you nest something, you have your actual consumed metal, but you also have a waste. And we need to account for the waste as we manage our materials, right? So we're storing the waste also in the data store so we can send it to ERP and manage our materials through there. What items in here are manufactured? What are the ancillaries? So we call them ancillaries. This is your stiffeners, notches, or not notches, stiffeners, corners, slip drives, things that are not necessarily graphically represented, but it's metadata on the part. How many nuts, bolts, things like that are needed on that package. We're also storing all the tasks, again, from Stratus here. All right, so this is the customer engagement user interface. So what I'm showing here is the same package. The idea is that this is the interface for the project management team. They can see their package here. They can leave notes basically in the ERP system. They can change the dates when they want it received, things like that. And the long-term goal, I think, is for us to minimize this and actually bring Stratus out to the field. They'll be able to interface with their models, their projects a lot more naturally there. And then this is Randy referred to it as F&O. This is finance and operations. So this is the bill of materials. How many pounds of galvanized 22 went into this? How many pounds of 24 went into this? How many linear feet of slip? How many linear feet of drive? How many linear feet of stiffeners? So on and so forth. Again, all that metadata that we can subtract from our inventory or send out a bill of materials to have delivered to us to build that package. And we're also storing the tasks. We're storing the tasks because this is where the shop partners will log their time as that package comes through their station. They'll go to that package in F&O, log their time directly against that package. So we know exactly how much time was spent manufacturing that particular item at that particular station. And again, it all rolls up into how much. Then again, here's the most important thing is what did Precon estimate it? What did VDC change that changed what it would cost us? And then we have what it actually cost us. So I don't know if you can see that from there, from where you're sitting, but we have a quantity. Precon said it was going to weigh a little over 5,000 pounds. After VDC got done with it, it was 4,800 pounds. The material field hours went down after VDC modeled it, went from 173 field hours to 130 field hours. So the fittings that they changed were impactful to the field, and the shop hours went up from a projected 47 shop hours to a projected 53 shop hours, right? Which is where we want our labor. We want our labor to be more in the shop than in the field, okay? Now, this is our actuals. This is after that package went through the shop floor, how many hours were logged against that package, how much materials were actually used. You won't be able to see it from where you're sitting, but there is a projected labor also on here of how many hours was it projected that this package should spend in the decoiler station. How many hours should it spend in the assembly station if it goes to the assembly station, okay? So then we have projected hours, we have actual hours. So now we can do comparisons from our projections to what's our actuals and start to dial that in. And eventually our projections become significantly more accurate. And as a package is created, I can tell you before it even goes to the shop floor, how long that package is going to take us to manufacture. Okay. So again, data. So, and the long-term goal of the data is to productize and move more into a manufacturing type process. And you can't get there unless you know your data. We've got Wow, I did good.
Yeah, it was a lot of information. And so we were worried he wouldn't have time to talk about it all. But I mean, it is a journey that we're undertaking to understand more about what we estimate, what we build, where are the gaps, how can we be more impactful in VDC with our BIM designers to take even more cost out. And so it's a lot. Like when I was sitting back there listening to David, it's tremendous effort and cost, man hours between construction technology, VDC, and manufacturing, and some great partnerships with Stratus to get this where it needs to be. But it's all about increasing the accuracy and the knowledge of what we're building and really the power of the database. He said 60,000 items, right? And those items have labor and material hours, labor and install hours, and shop and manufacture hours, as well as the automatic efficiencies that send it straight through the manufacturers for purchasing and things like that. So it's, the contracting world can be kind of like the wild, wild west of, you got an estimate out there, but what's your reality? And we're getting closer and closer to that, but it's a tremendous amount of work. So thank you for letting us have the opportunity to share a pretty complicated view into how we manage our data.
I do have a few questions that popped in. I'll try to put them in order that you presented. So Randy, who built and decided the pace of the roadmap? What level of commitment was obtained to meeting those objectives?
Yeah, that's kind of a tricky question. So, we fundamentally knew in 17 that we needed to build a database, but I don't think that, it'd be great if I said we had this huge vision in 17. We didn't. It kind of grew organically. We knew we needed to start with the database, so that's what we started doing. And along the way, we gained, more intelligence about it, started to firm up that roadmap and know the gaps. So it's like a gap analysis almost. You identify your ideal future state. Now, what are the gaps that I have to do to go make that happen, right? And so we started with a database manager, and then we've grown that team, with David over construction technology, programmer and Revit, and then other Revit technical expertise and training that we needed along the way too. And from a cost perspective, because I think that was in there, it's just a commitment that our company has to do the things that we need to do to be into the future. So I don't think we've ever summed it up in a one-line lump sum total for them, but we handle it through recoveries on our VDC labor that pays for the infrastructure support that we need for our construction technology platform.
Thank you. David, what are the roles and responsibilities around data integrity, version control, and duplicates?
We don't really have the problem with duplicates, I guess, per se. But from a data integrity standpoint, our database is very controlled. There's only 2 people that are responsible for managing it. I think you get into trouble when you start to open it up and allow other people to get in there and start messing with it. When you also allow multiple logins, the database can get corrupted. So again, just restricting the access to the data and the ability to manipulate the data is really the biggest strategy to making sure it doesn't get corrupted.
Thanks. Can you list off the different data software packages that you use for the data mining, such as Revit, Stratus, et cetera?
Well, what I didn't list maybe was BIM 360. We're using BIM 360, but that's not really a data mining. When you say data mining, I'm thinking more of what we built with the data store, right? So we're executing reports against that Stratus package. We're pulling all that data out of Stratus and storing it in the data store. And that would eventually be our data mining platform where we'd be able to go into the data store and do cross-package analysis, cross-project analysis of what that information is telling us. If that makes sense. I'm sorry if I'm not quite understanding the question.
We'll move to the next one. We'll do one more. How do you round trip actual hours to inform the next estimate?
That's a process. Great question. We have not built that connection yet. Round tripping is really important, being able to take our actuals and send that back to pre-con, updating their projected labor tables compared to our actuals. We've not built that connection yet, but ERP will definitely tell us the actuals. We have not spent the time to build that completed loop.
It's a journey. It's definitely a journey.
We'll do one more.
Before it.
When you say when you say package, are you referring to work packages or tasks, and do you have parameters on how you define that?
A work package is just a group of fittings that the field has asked for. Could be anything connected to this specific VAV box or this particular floor of chill water, what have you. Okay. They try to manage the package sizes. So we don't want anything over 2,000 pounds, right? Or we don't want any more than 100 diameter inches in a package. I'm not the shop managers. We'd have to ask the shop managers what those metrics are, but those are the metrics that they would pay attention to as they're creating packages to make sure they're not making ones that are too large. Task is the stops on the shop floor that package is going to go to. Not every package needs to go to the fitting station. Maybe it's a bag and tag package. It's going to get cut and packed and shipped. We would skip those other tasks. So as the package is created, that information is being told to the package and then logged in ERP.
Good clarification. Thank you. Let's give Randy and David a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we do have a